Get nice and comfortable. Your whole body soft and easy. Letting any holding in your body fall through the ground. Sometimes people will ask me where the weight should be in the body. And the answer is it should not be in the body. The weight should be in the ground. You just let it fall through until you are light and free. So any place that you feel that sense of holding or pressure or weightedness, stuckness, it means that you're hanging on to something unnecessarily. And it is your job to find a way to let it go. Let it fall through. Similarly, if you notice that your mind is gripping and running about or feeling sluggish, heavy, this is also a byproduct of a kind of gripping of the mind, a kind of forcing and holding. Find a way to soften the mind. I have to use this muscular metaphor, but it feels similar. The letting go process is similar. Relaxing your mind so that it's easier for awareness to simply rest in the present moment. This state of deep mindfulness is one of the most effective ways to rest. If it feels like you're doing something when you're in this meditative state, it means that you're holding your mind instead of letting it settle. It's okay. Feel your breath. If you notice resistance within your breath process, if your breath is not comfortably deep and slow and fine and even, gentle, then it means, again, it's being resisted. There's a holding on. And we don't force the breath. That's not helpful. We let go of that which is obstructing the breath process. As your mind and body and breath begin to settle, you may find your emotional process settling in the same way. And again, no surprise, the process is the same. You get out of the way. Allow yourself to feel. Don't push on your emotions. Don't pull away from them. Don't force anything. Don't get caught up thinking about them. You just get out of the way. Just another minute of quiet contemplation. And again, as I say in every class, if you are new to this set, please do let me know in the comment section. And I'm happy to include extra instruction for you. Otherwise, I just continue on with the more experienced students. We can see from the data that there's at least a dozen people always just hovering in the back and not saying anything, but we don't know who you are.
And that's okay.
And that's okay.
I tend to be one of those people too, so it's okay to be quiet.
But I would like to be able to tailor the class to meet your needs as well. It's not okay.
I have to advocate for my fellow introvert.
The lurkers. It's okay to lurk.
Sorry, Sean.
It's okay. I appreciate you. I've been telling Mel how much everybody appreciates her comments and suggestions as we go. So I'm hoping that she will sound off more often. I can move the mic closer to her and
No way.
She has so much wisdom to share. Keeping your shoulders soft, your elbows and your wrists and your hands relaxed and warm. Remember that your thumb especially works on that occipital line just below the skull and that gallbladder 20 point that I was talking about. Emphasizing that spot below the large bone at the base of the neck, but warming the whole neck. And Melanie is reminding me that you can do this whole opening process standing up if that's more comfortable for you, or even lying down. Find what works for your body at this moment. Remember that you hold the intention gently to spread and soothe circulation and to warm that tissue just beneath the skin, to soften qi through the channels. So recognizing the direction of each part of the circle that helps that and emphasize that part of the circle. Also, cultivating and infusing that sense of warmth and friendly touch, compassion, self-love. Just as though you were caring for somebody that you hold the deepest respect and care for. Allow that to be the quality of this touch, the intention that is communicated. Nothing is more healing than loving touch. Deep softness of the hands and the forearms. Notice as you practice that it's gotten easier to release this area in your body. We're slowly, over the course of 100 days, letting that softness spread. Few breaths of meditation, awareness resting in that space behind your navel, beneath your palms, letting the warmth and softness of your hands communicate with your belly. Is it warm enough for you?
Yeah, I got a little cold, so I put my robe back on, but if I turn it up, I'll get hot.
Okay.
Are you okay?
I'm comfy, yeah.
Okay.
One of the wonderful things that Melanie and I have been talking about is I've noticed that over the years as I've gotten healthier, because remember I started off my life unhealthy, and this latter part of my life I've gotten healthier and healthier, stronger and stronger. And one of the changes that has happened is this ability to allow my body to acclimate more easily to a wider range of temperatures. So that heat doesn't bother me, the cold doesn't bother me, and it's slowly increasing, and not in such a way that I have to pump my chi up or do special practice, breathe really hard. None of those things. It's simply that my body has more flexibility in this quality of it. And it's only from being rested and soft that this happens. And so I highly recommend it. For me, that was one of the great gifts of COVID, as terrible as it was. I had a lot of time to rest and sleep, and suddenly all of these qualities changed, including my ability to handle the cold and the heat more readily. The power of being rested. Do not underestimate it. Hands soft and warm. Let that softness spread up to your wrists. And again, if you'd like to include that softening around the breast aspect of the practice, feel free to include that. Everybody's different. Using your opposite hand if that helps you relax. That point here in the elbow bend, softening, release, warming, gentle movements, fingers, palm, side of the knuckle, whichever it is that feels the easiest for you. This bend in the elbow here. You can do this if you like 36 times in both directions. You can do more if this is an area of particular tension for you. Softening down a little bit further here. Again, the movement itself is emphasizing a release down toward the index finger. This sort of soft release all the way down. Both directions if you'd like, but both directions emphasizing a movement down. And then inside of the arm, along the inside of the elbow, this movement will travel down toward the thumb. You can use your fingertips. This is in that soft spot just on the inside of this tendon. Be gentle here, especially if you've experienced medical trauma from IVs in this location or anything else. When I grew up, I had spent a lot of time, to say the least, in hospitals. And a lot of my body was traumatized through needles and IVs and such things. And so I'm always trying to be extra gentle on these places in my body that hold that lingering emotional, physical charge. Both directions, easing them open, releasing pressure that accumulates in this area that tends to band around the arm this way. Soften that, releasing it toward the fingertips, especially toward the middle finger and the fourth finger. I usually just squeeze and circle this 36 times. Feel free to spend more time here if that feels especially nourishing, either for the wrist, from local wrist pain, or if you have anxiety tendencies, you can spend more time, especially down here close to the wrist crease. Point called the Heart 7, Spirit Gate, Shunman. Easing that and lightest pressure, just enough to stimulate and open the point. You're not trying to press down below any idea of muscle, if that's helpful. Again, if you do a search on Heart 7, you'll easily find that point. You can warm the area at the base of the thumb, encouraging movement out toward the index and the thumb. And then large intestine 4, you can simply press it with your fingertips if that feels easier to you. Or you can stimulate it from both sides at once. Try to put it against a darker background so it's a little easier to see. Both directions. Softening open this tendency to grip and tighten. Instead, we're releasing the hands. All of this softening open, if you'd like. Again, for people who deal with anxiety or any kind of heart issues, this point here beneath the armpit, right in that hollow space, this is the beginning of the heart channel in Chinese medicine. In fact, when I used to have a lot of heart trouble as a kid, whenever I would have a kind of heart failure or a feeling of strangulation because my heart wasn't pumping well enough, I would turn white and I would have this great tightness come up here, and it would always extend down my arm, starting at this point. And I would feel it radiating down. This ended my athletic career as a kid. And so this area to soften all through here is really important to keep it flowing and warm and to remove obstructions in any way that we can. Oops, top of the shoulder as well. Again, using your opposite hand if that's comfortable and easy. Same thing, as long as it's not tiring on your opposite arm. 36 circles in both directions, warming and releasing this whole area. There is a point up here called gallbladder 21, the shoulder well, that you can center upon, but really listen and feel for any spaces up here that can be released. All the way around to the back of the arm. Again, at the crease of the elbow here. "36 times in both directions, warming and easing. If you tend to have wrist tension, you can follow Master ZhiCheng's written instructions of 100 times in both directions. As long as you're communicating softness and ease. Again, this point right in the crease. Both directions. Another great point if you're dealing with any kind of wet cough from any particular virus or bacteria wandering around. Both directions. Always give extra love to the troubled fingers that you have. This poor little thing. You might find that there's a particular direction of release for your wrists that help them to soften a difficult line on your body. So please feel free to play around until you can find that line that for you is special. Part of the compassionate time that we're giving ourselves is the willingness and the ability to listen, to see how we feel, to check in. Oh, this is a little bit extra painful. Oh, this spot seems sticky. Oh, I didn't know this area of my body was numb. And so by taking that time, we develop that intimate knowledge of our needs. That knowledge with the willingness to change, the willingness to listen and open, and to share compassionate, friendly attention. And that can be so transformative. Closing. A few breaths of quiet awareness. Just let your mind settle into emptiness.
Are you good? Do you need more?
So good. Thank you. I hope everyone is feeling soft and open. Sometimes it takes a little while to come to rest in our bodies and to begin to feel what's going on inside. And so pay extra attention with your newfound clarity and softness, and you may discover something new. And again, yesterday we discussed possible breast massage techniques for those that might find that helpful. I definitely recommend that for people who have a lot of breast tissue or very dense or likely to complain breast tissue, or if that part of their body's been ignored a lot. Remember, there's these basic circles, the small ones, as well as the larger circles in both directions, ending in movements that travel down, just for the sake of this sinking of the chi. You can always catch up on your own time with the rest of the set. Skip a few movements that feel less valuable to you. But please do modify the set as you get to know yourself and your needs. Solar plexus, and then a little bit below, between the navel and the solar plexus. cultivating kindness, gentle presence, especially in this area. As you soften your rib sides, you might feel the breath begin to perfuse and release into those areas. "36 progressively larger and larger spirals outward, and then 24 back in the opposite direction. Your waist and belly are soft. Your awareness rests beneath your palms, feeling that exchange and transformation happening inside your abdomen. And just in case you're wondering about it, the reason my body's moving is just because I'm so relaxed that any movement on this chair makes my whole body move. But I'm not purposefully twisting anything. I'm just rotating my arms and softening my belly. Remember that this is this point here in the very center. You might find it to be sore. Hopefully with practice it will become less and less sensitive. I'm simply using this part of my hand to massage the point, but you can use your fingertips, the heel of your hand, or your knuckles gently, as long as, again, you're not trying to press into the muscle, but you're trying to soften the tissue beneath the skin. And then that point just on the outside above the knee. In both directions. Your hands and your wrists soft. The insides of your knees. Softening this point here at the corner of the knee, but also the whole soft sides, the insides of the knees. Especially if you tend toward knee pain. Spend an extra amount of time here. Emphasizing warmth and this release down toward the feet. In that space just behind the knee. If you tend toward low back pain, rather than letting your fingers move across the point from underneath the way that I'm doing, you can also just settle your fingers on there and make gentle circles. And spend extra time allowing warmth to penetrate into that point. You still want to emphasize this release and softening toward the feet. But you can take more time to do that in both directions. This across style stimulation is more about softening the ligaments and tendons. But both are good. And then stomach 36. Center of the belly of the muscle. As well as spleen 9 if you like. Gentle warming circles. In both directions. As well as gallbladder 34 here on the side of the leg. Warming and softening at this point here is a wonderful way to spread a kind of release and softness through all of the sinew in the body. So definitely take your time there. See if you can feel that as it spreads and relaxes, that your knee feels more open and flexible. I'll do this 60 times in both directions. You're welcome to follow me with that. If you'd like to do fewer and to spend more time on a separate point, of course, you can do that. Make this sequence your own. Maintaining the softness in your hands and your wrists. There's a tendency to want to press hard with your fingertips into these denser tissues. And you can add extra firm pressure if it helps you to release. But remember that for this practice, we are being very gentle. This point here in the calf, we press a little bit deeper than usual, but the emphasis is still softness. Your hands should remain soft. Your palms, as you've gotten better at softening your hands, begin to feel softness travel up your forearms, at least this part of your wrist. Slowly with practice, this set won't just communicate through your hands to your body, but your hands and arms will also receive the message. If you tend to have cold limbs, cold feet, sore ankles, then take the extra time. Maybe do this 100 times. And then just catch up with us later. I'm going to introduce lots of variations and possibilities for the practice so that you can decide what you need when you need it. If you sit like this, soften your hip. Don't allow any sense of twisting in your knee. Sometimes I feel a little reckless sitting like this on camera because I'm not sure who's following me. So please be gentle. If you need to just put your leg down and do pressure this way, that is perfectly fine. Find what works better for you. Some people will lay on their back and let their leg come up toward their chest, and that's also okay. Please be gentle and kind. Warm and soft. All the way from the base of your heel to the arch of the foot, warming. The kidney 1 point is in here. So you allow warmth and movement to soak into that point. The bubbling spring, Yongquan. But also the flat of the palm, warming the side of the foot. Fingertips sinking in comfortably to release that space between the tendons on the top of the foot. Sitting comfortably, easily, however you sit, in a chair, on the bed, on the ground. I try to do a lot of variations when I can. Down the outside and the back. up the inside and front. I should make sure this is on silent. There we go. The same feeling as when we do this for our arms, where we are encouraging circulation out to the extremities, and then we return from the feet. As you sink down, you can just go as far as this if that is fine for you. Keeping your back soft. Don't involve strain. Don't hold your breath. You're simply folding from the hips. Don't tighten your thighs as you move down. Don't cheat yourself by introducing an exercise that starts to tighten you up and cause problems and undo all of the work that you've been doing. If you tend to have swelling and fluid accumulation in the feet, then you can spend more time returning. If instead you have difficulty getting blood flow to your feet, then spend more time and energy releasing outward. Find that balance for your body. And then circling. Everybody's favorite. Rotating your ankles and your toes, your knees, your hips, all the way up to where you're sitting. Everything starts to move around.
Yeah.
Remember to stop if you find that it is exhausting or it starts to make your muscles tired. You can use your hands for help. It may help to sit on a cushion so that your hips are a bit higher if your hips are too tight for you to lean forward. But that also gets easier as you practice. Letting your knees bounce a little bit comfortably. Again, as long as it's comfortable. You can roll your shoulders. Softening as you relax your shoulders down. And then reaching out, gathering from your feet. Allow your feet to close around a point without tension. Draw that to your back, floating up, falling forward. Again, you're hinging from the hip. You're not collapsing from your neck. Keep this soft. Dragging your fingers up like we practiced before. Thighs are soft, don't grip. Allow your spine to lengthen upward and then fall upward and over the top. So you're not trying to push yourself down toward your knees, but rather to lengthen your spine. This isn't about a stretch. We're not trying to become flexible or touch our toes. That's not what this is. Instead, we're making a connection between the feet, through the legs, the back, lengthening the spine, softening long. So think of it instead as softening and opening the back of the hips, the feet.
Is it okay to bend the knees slightly if that helps?
Can you give me an example?
Yeah, like on this part, especially when I'm coming up.
Oh, sure, if that helps. Yeah,
I'm
probably
probably not seated.
Yeah,
enough.
it would help. Mel is asking about, is it okay as you're drawing up for this section to bend the knees to help keep the back soft rather than leaning back. And usually that means that someone's not sitting high enough off of the ground, because Mel's sitting pretty close to the ground. And so definitely find the adjustment. It's certainly okay to bend your knees, but it does keep this lengthening from happening. So we want this sense of length all the way from the feet to the hands as we soften over eventually. But Mel makes a very good point that we do want to emphasize adjusting the movements so that they're comfortable for us. And so please do find a way to make this work for you. And if you're unsure, if maybe you have a very different body type than I do, feel free to send a video or a photos and let me know, oh, I have this going on. Oh, I have one leg. And we can adjust to find what helps you so that we're actually achieving the benefit we're looking for. It's okay to be unique. Turning your navel, not just your shoulders and your head. Let your waist soften side to side. Crown of your head continues to float up as you release your neck. Are you holding your breath? Are you holding your mind? Let go. Be easy. As you let go, just let your body fall out of it. I'm still moving, but I'm not doing anything. I'm just waiting for the vibrations to slowly find their way out. The softer you are, the longer it seems to take. Let's do now that series of mouth and tongue releases. As a reminder, we will click our teeth together. Perhaps this time we can do it 60 times. Again, force is not the point, just enough to stimulate the living tissue through and above the teeth. And if your teeth are uncomfortable or your gums or your dental work are a bit fragile, then please do just touch your teeth together and lightly press them together, like lightly pressing keys on a computer, just very gently making that contact. And then, after 60 or so of those, adjust to your need, we can click our tongue against the roof of the mouth and then lengthen our tongue outward. Please do not grip and push your tongue. I've seen yogic versions of this, sometimes called the lion, where they are sort of roaring and their whole face tenses up and they grip their jaw and they push their tongue out like they're trying to exercise those areas. That's fine. Different practice. The goal here is to soften all of this long in the same way that if I was to take your arm and grab your fingers and gently pull your tissues long that way, we're trying to do that, but through the tongue and without having to grab the tongue. So please don't find tension. That just gets in the own way. So I'll click and let the tongue lengthen 9 times, and then circle the tongue around the teeth, outside of the teeth, both directions, inside of the teeth, both directions, just on that line where the teeth meet the gum, trying to stimulate and heal that area again. And then finally, gather that saliva throughout your mouth and then swallow it down. If there's a good deal of saliva, you can swallow it down even 3 times in 3 portions. Each time, follow that movement down as though it sinks all the way down to that space behind the navel. And then rest. One day this will be the thumbnail in one of my videos. allowing that sense of warmth and qi to settle in the body, accumulating for a moment behind the navel. And then if you like, when you're ready, let's spend a few minutes either sitting comfortably or lying flat if you'd like. We want to allow our body to soften, open, to experience the changes that we've created throughout our whole system. Everyone's body is different, so find the way that works for you. And again, as a reminder, if you tend toward back pain, you might find it useful to put a bolster or a pillow, something beneath your knees, even just a pile of clothes or a small dog resting there. I don't think a cat would let you do it. You probably could put a cat beneath your neck. That's a pillow if you'd like. Something beneath your elbows to hold your arms up, depending on size of your belly or what's going on. But please do find a way to be comfortable and to allow your body to rest and open. Feeling your whole body soften. Noticing the full body sense of ease available to you. Just a few minutes, being comfortable, taking stock of the changes that have been made by becoming conscious of those new adjustments in your body. Your system is far more likely to allow them to stay. At some point when you feel comfortable and open and ready, you will, if you're lying down, roll on your side and sit up comfortably. Taking your time. Feeling this new state, allowing your whole body to remain soft, your breath to remain soft, your emotions to be easy, and your mind to be clear. And if there's any questions in the next few minutes, feel free to ask. Thanks, Steph. It's really nice that you get to join us. I feel very grateful that people all around the world get to come together and share experiences like this. I feel like there's something wonderful and very nourishing about cultivating community around things like this. And even though we're not in the same place, there is a sense of shared qi, and I feel like it's supportive. And so I very much appreciate you all. The further away, the more I appreciate you.
Anna says, I feel my knee is much better after hurting myself in lotus pose.
Oh, gosh, lotus. Well, first of all, I'm glad that you're feeling better. And thank you for sharing. Yeah, the lotus position is famous for injuring people, that because we have this idea that that's what a good pose looks like. But the lotus pose is much more about having incredibly open hips so that your leg just folds this way and there's no pressure on your knee. My instructor can do it, but he started doing it when he was a kid. And I feel like for a lot of people, my friends that grew up in India doing yoga in their elementary school, their hips just opened that way. They could rotate this way and they stayed open. And so that they can sit with their feet on top of their lap with no pressure in their knees at all. And I feel like that's actually a wonderfully stable and balanced seated position, but I don't think it is available to most people that didn't grow up with it. And so, and also, of course, there are literally people that the shape of their pelvis won't allow for that kind of hip rotation because it creates impingement. And so if we have hips that have that shape, it's actually bad for us to move into the lotus. And so when people try to force themselves because they think it looks a certain way, I'm not saying that that's what you did. It's just a very common way that we end up hurting ourselves. We start yanking on our legs, and you're definitely not alone. I did something similar when I was practicing one martial art called Taekwondo years ago. And they put me on a machine that would force me into certain positions. And it worked the one time. My body was forced into it, and then I was injured for years and years afterward, decades. And so it is very worth being gentle and slow.
Chris has some questions
that
he is formulating at the moment.
Scientific process.
I appreciate Steph's comment. She says it's great having people to practice with.
It really is. Yeah. I am very grateful to all of you. You make it a lot of fun.
Okay, Chris's questions too. First one is, where are the best areas to massage to stimulate the parasympathetic response? And the second one is, if you had to pick the top 10 of most useful points for calming the mind and treating insomnia, what would they be?
Well, so again, it's difficult to translate across into Western medicine sometimes. When we talk about the parasympathetic, the shorthand for that is we say it's the rest and digest system. It is the part of your system that activates when you let go. It's the reason why people who are stressed not only don't rest well, but they don't digest well, because their system is in a fight or flight mode. Fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And so their system cannot undergo those deeper nourishing processes because they're constantly activated like this. And so oftentimes people come into my clinic and their digestion is poor. What they want are points for their digestion, but they need to learn how to slow down, because that's what we're talking about when we're talking about nervous system excitation or the slowing response. If you feel like you're in emergency all the time, or if you're in a more normal state, parasympathetic should be the normal state. 99% of your life should be in that state. And so If we talk about points that stimulate that, that's a hard one because it's more about how we stimulate those points. There are points that can help calm the system. But the question always has to be, what is keeping you from being in the normal state of living? What is constantly exciting you? Is it your mind? There are points that can help calm the mind, but is your mind rushing because of great fear? Is your mind rushing because chi is constantly floating up? Is your mind rushing because of all of these different things? And so, for instance, if your chi is always floating up, then it can be very useful to spend a lot of time working on the lower half of the body or cultivating the anchor of the danxian, because that has that quality of pulling the chi down, and it slows the mind down. It was one of my warnings when Del was asking about these methods that push chi and yang to the outside to make us feel warm or hot, even when it's cold. Sure, you can do that, but everything on the way gets excited, like fire passing through your system. It heats you up, but all the delicate stuff along the way, and then you have all this chi stuck in your head, so your mind goes really fast and your emotions get supercharged, which can be problematic. So there's a lot of information in there. And so in general, I can say, spend a lot of time, for instance, on this point on the bottom of the foot, or this point at the navel, or your lower back, right? Stomach 36, spleen 6. These points can all be very helpful because they have this quality of sinking and stabilizing this aspect of us. Because the mind isn't the mind. The mind is kind of an empty thing. The mind is just another sense. In the same way that if your ears were ringing or if your sense of smell was hyperactive, the cure isn't to try to dull the sense of smell. The cure is to try to settle the energy that's hyperactivating everything. Why is your nervous system being overwhelmed? And what can you do to stop hyperactivating it? These days, for a lot of people, one of the things I recommend, honestly, is a news fast. Stop watching TV. Stop listening to things that make you angry or upset or afraid. Because, of course, that entire media cycle is literally built consciously around infuriating you. We know this about Facebook, for instance, or a number of the social media. The algorithm literally selects for rage because that keeps people on. It is not a healthy cycle. And so if we're talking about nervous system activation, there's a lot of things that people do. Sometimes they abuse stimulants, caffeine, other stimulants, and that activates your nervous system. So you can't rest. You feel more energized, but at a cost. And so I can't give specific points about that any more than I can make specific recommendations about insomnia. Again, it depends on what's causing the insomnia. One cause of insomnia is that, and I know that, Chris, you're not the only one asking about this, is that in Chinese medicine, the yin and the blood are not being produced enough. That is the quality within which the spirit, the mind, gets enfolded and settles at night. So even if your chi can sink, even if you're not doing things to supercharge it, if you don't have maybe we can say an energetically soft bed within which to come to rest inside, you'll wake up throughout the night. You can't sleep. And that's usually people who don't eat enough, who don't drink enough. Sometimes if you don't move enough, these qualities, usually it's people that are very thin, kind of like a skinniness to them. There's no flesh on their body anymore. That's one aspect of the yin. And so literally for a lot of people that have a kind of insomnia where their system can't rest, the thing I have to tell them to do is to try to put on 10 pounds, which in our culture can be a difficult thing. It's a difficult thing to sell because at least in my culture, people hypervalue thinness. And so that quality is another thing to think about. And these are all difficult processes because I can't create diagnoses online, but we can make recommendations. But just recognizing that there's a lot of variability in each of these symptoms, the cause. Because again, sometimes the insomnia is just caused because people have a really uncomfortable bed and a noisy neighbor. In which case, there's no points to help for that, except for a pointer toward a bed store or a different apartment.
So we have a few other questions. I'm going to start with the quick, well, it's not really a quick yes, no, but is it Hanuman in your shirt, on your shirt?
Hanuman, the monkey guy in the Hindu mythology. Some people say that they're related, but this is actually the Monkey King. I think his name is on the back here. Sun Wukong. This is a quote from the Journey to the West, which is where the Monkey King comes from. He's one of my favorite characters in Chinese mythology. Born out of a stone, consummate troublemaker, like some of the people here in the class. Just a fun character. Wonderful stories about him if you ever have the chance to look him up.
And then the other questions we have are, if you cannot reach LV3, can you use some sort of tool like an umbrella, LOL? Should you always roll onto your side? Okay, so that's the first one. And then there are a few others too. Let me know if you want to read them all or if you want to
Lots
start.
of them.
Yeah.
So liver 3 is the one here on the foot that we talk about, between the two tendons. And yeah, if we just can't reach them, and there's a lot of people who can't reach it either because of stiffness. Some people have a larger body. There's a lot of body weight on them, so they literally can't reach around themselves to get to the point. I'm sure pregnancy can cause that. Very difficult to move around. And so whatever the cause, maybe your feet smell and you don't want to get close to them. So you can use an umbrella or maybe just somebody that you don't like to push on that point. But you can use your other foot, your toes, to get in there. Remember how I was showing this kind of massage? That's one way to help relieve those points, as long as your feet are comfortable enough for that. Some people have trouble feeling their feet, diabetics or just people that have nerve damage or a kind of physical disconnection. And so adjusting that way, I think, can be useful. So yes, you can use an umbrella. It's better to use your own body because, again, part of the benefit from this practice isn't just stimulating the point, but about gently connecting with the body. It's not just the point, but how we are reaching the point. And that's the point.
And then I really appreciate this question. Should you always roll on to your side to get up from lying down? I do a kind of sit up and it hurts.
Don't do the thing that hurts. You don't have to always roll on your side. It is a way that it puts less stress on certain aspects of your system. And so some of the time it's because we're trying to maintain this gentle opening we just created. And for people that have a lot of tension or weakness in their core, for instance, it's difficult for them to sit up. Or sitting up stimulates old injuries or this kind of thing. And so as a safety feature, it is easier, of course, to maybe bend one of your knees, if that is easy, and to roll onto your side. And then you can use your hands, if you'd like, to lever yourself up. And to do that in a safer way can be very helpful for a lot of people. There's nothing inherently wrong with just sitting up, especially if it's an easy movement for your body. Something like this. Like I can do this and I can soften my back even in this position. My neck is soft. My legs are soft because I've learned how to use my body in such a way that I'm not straining things. And practices like Qigong and Tai Chi strengthen your core so much that it makes it easier. But you do want to find a way to be gentle. And if it hurts, then please find a way that doesn't hurt. That's my recommendation.
The next question, how can we reach bladder points on the back on our own? Would the thumper be okay if we don't have any local friends? Violins playing.
Violins playing. The thumper is a kind of massage device that goes dun, 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 against your body. You can certainly use the thumper anywhere on your body that requires dispersion, but remember that it's not part of this set at all. It has a completely different effect. So certainly feel free to thump your back if you'd like, but don't do it around the time when this set is trying to have its effect of softening open, because the second you start pounding on your body will go as it's getting dispersed. And so again, it's not that it's a bad thing to do, certainly. It just has a different effect. So you want to let this effect sink into your system a little bit before you start dispersing and beating on yourself a little bit. Be gentle. And get some friends locally to work in your back.
I think that's all the questions we have so far.
Hooray. Mel is so great. Everybody give a round of applause to the Mel.
Oh, it's so easy.
So
All
easy.
these, like I'm just really appreciative of all these questions, like that rolling on the side. I don't know why, but I think it's because I've become so habituated to doing a sit-up when I get up that just the idea of rolling on my side for the longest time felt like I had to carve a new neural pathway.
Yeah, we
or
do.
something.
No, I think that's a really good point, that new movements require new pathways. And when we say new pathways, quite literally, you could take a video or a photograph of their brain and you're changing the shape of their brain. You're literally carving pathways like the water cutting a canyon through rock. And so it takes time for these new pathways to be created. New skills are learned at the speed of the myelination of neurons, the sheath that grows around things. Your brain is physically changing. That's why you have to eat well, rest well. Rest is when deep sleep, hopefully, is when those changes happen the best, if you're well nourished. And so all of these skills come together as one process. We can't just do one. You literally have to grow these skills into your body, even the habit of rolling onto your side or the habit of softly touching your body. And that's why it takes 100 days of practice. That's why we do it this way, because you can't just learn it in a weekend. It doesn't work that way. We are physical beings. And that's all?
I think so.
Thank you, everybody. I very much appreciate you. I love getting to spend virtual time with you. I'm sorry that YouTube doesn't allow us to show photos, pictures of people moving around. And again, I welcome you to send to my email or however you get it, videos of you doing these practices, and I'm happy to make corrections. Because I want people to feel their best and to enjoy this the most that they can. Enjoy your practice.